Welcome back in, Clay Travis, Buck Sexton Show. We're up in the D.C. area for a couple of weeks, and we're having people in studio with us to talk about everything under the sun. You just heard from Senator Marsha Blackburn in Tennessee, and now you got a guy who's a senator and also soon to be a governor, Tommy Tuberville. I know that you made the announcement. That was last week. I was on vacation with my kids running around at Universal Studios, so I know you were on with Buck. But we'll dive into all that here in a moment. But also, I know you are a monster football fan. They had a big decision, about $20.5 million to spend. I bet you still talk to a lot of coaches. I do too. Did you ever think that we'd end up in this situation where guys are basically holding out every few months and saying, hey, unless I get X coach, I'm not going to play for you? I know the Senate's not easy, but do a part of you feel a little bit sorry for some of these coaches, what they have to deal with on a day-to-day basis?
It's a killer. I mean,
yeah.
It's just going to run a lot of people out. Obviously, Nick didn't last long. He got out. And when you can't control your destiny, Nick and I, and a lot of my buddies I grew up with, we learn from good people.
Yeah.
Jimmy Johnson, you bring in 2-3 stars nobody ever heard of, and you build a football team. You can't do that anymore. It's not about building a team. It's not about loyalty, and it's not about education. The three things that it should be about, it's totally gotten away from that. Now it's about money, and I'm fine with them making money. I've always thought they should make money. It's a full-time job, and but it's hard to make a plan for it when you've got 600 athletes and half of them are women.
Yep.
And then the other half, most of them are Olympic sports and men's sports, non-revenue. You have two sports. Basketball really doesn't make any money. Everybody says, well, men's basketball at one or two schools might make money. The rest of them, they're lucky to break even. They spend a lot of money. The only one that makes money is the big stadium football teams. And, of course, now the TV contracts have gotten huge. But, yeah, $20.5 million to spread around on each team. Now, you don't have to get involved in that. You know that, Clay.
Yeah.
You can opt out and say, listen, we don't have the money to do it. And that's what's going to happen to 70%. They don't have the money to do that.
Right. We're talking to Senator Tommy Tuberville. Next year he'll be Governor Tommy Tuberville, which will be an interesting transition. Why? What's the role that as Alabama governor was so attractive to you that next year you'll, I think, go ahead and make a prediction, be the next governor for Alabama? What do you want to do?
Well, I'm a builder, as I was a football coach. And up here you're one of 100, and you can do a lot of good for your state and the country. It's really watered down. It runs at a slow pace. But I looked at staying, and my wife and I talked about it. And, I've got grandkids now, and I look at a situation where I can go home. I can take the experience that I've learned up here, all the connections. Now, you got to have connections to get federal money, and I can go back to Alabama, and we can get a coaching staff, as I'd call it, people who run education, healthcare, military, all that, and do the same thing at a smaller level just for the 5 million people in the state. And we go from there and we hit the ground running. So you can see results as a governor. You can see results here, but, Clay, they are few and far between, and they're very, very slow. And, again, I hadn't mind doing it. When we had Biden administration, it was defense. I'm a defensive guy, but it was defense all the time. You couldn't get anything done. Now with President Trump in, he's doing a great job. He's gotten common sense back up here. He's working the halls of the Senate trying to get this big, beautiful bill across, which it will eventually. But at the end of the day, I just looked at it and said, to use my abilities the best I can and the best for Alabama, go back and be governor.
Alabama's an awesome state. It's a great place. There will be a Senate opening to replace you. It's going to be a Republican. How do you see that race playing out?
There'll be 4, 5, 6 people run for it, and they should. They all call me, and I said, of course, I'm telling y'all, I'm not going to endorse anybody. You're on your own until you win the primary, and I think that's the right way to do it. It'll be a free-for-all. Even Bruce Pearl, I've heard his name thrown in there. I don't think at the end of the day he will do it.
I've texted some about him. I love Coach Pearl like you do. He's the basketball coach for Auburn, for people out there that might not know. And he's been really outspoken because he's been so fired up about the response since October 7th as a guy who's Jewish. There's just a lot of awfulness that's been happening.
Yeah. But he would be a great politician. But I don't think it's time for him.
Yeah.
I was retired.
Yeah.
I wasn't still working. I could have been, but I just chose to get out. And I worked for ESPN for a couple of years. And and I said, I'm going to do something for the American people, the country that gave me so much. And so that's the reason I did it. And I think if he was retired, he'd be a great senator.
What should we know about the so-called big, beautiful bill? I was just talking with Senator Blackburn. She says she feels like there's a good pathway to get this done by July 4th. I know that's the kind of back-of-the-mind target. Do you feel good about that? What do you hear? Obviously, there's been a lot of fireworks all around it as it's gotten closer. What do you see on the floor?
Yeah, first of all, we have no choice. We've got to get it done. It's got to be passed, and it's got to be passed soon, because if we don't, 22% of everybody's taxes will go up, and you can just you can say enough, for the Republican Party after we'd promised all this. Now, the other part, other than the tax cuts, there's a lot of good things in the bill. Now, there's a lot of things that's like, putting lipstick on a pig. As a conservative like me, I'd rather not do it, but it's like anything else, Clay. It's not going to be perfect, but we have got to get growth in this country. A lot of my cohorts are saying it's not enough cuts. Well, at the end of the day, we're counting on tariffs and we're counting on growth to overcome a lot of the cuts that's not in the bill. And so it's going to be a fight. Rand Paul, he doesn't like the debt limit of $5 trillion.
Yeah,
none of us do. But that's not to say you're going to get there. I said, Rand, President Trump just wants to a point where we don't have to raise it every 3 months, because the Democrats are going to hold our feet to the fire every time we want to do it. Let's just do it all at one time. Everybody's got a reason for doing it or not doing it. Some say there's not enough cuts. But we've got to take care of the people that work, Clay. What President Trump and how he's won in 16 and in 24 was the people that go to work every day and put their nose to the grindstone and barely make enough money to pay for their family and their kids going to school. And they look around going, we've got criminals that don't go by the law. We've got illegals here that are getting food stamps, welfare, free housing. What's going on? Somebody's not standing up for us. Well, President Trump is. And this bill stands up for the American worker. And that's the reason we have to get it done. We have to get it done now. And then we can do another. We've got another reconciliation coming. So it's not like we're finished. Let's get this one across the goal line. And there's some things that I want to push a little bit harder, but at the end of the day, I'm going to vote for it because I know how important it is to our country.
We had Riley Gaines on the show earlier today. You've done a lot of Outkick shows over the years.
With her.
Yeah. And a lot of our, I can't believe that Outkick site that I founded is the only one that will say men shouldn't be playing in women's sports in all of sports. You have been working on this, but just as a preliminary, you coached for a long time. Would you have ever believed that Democrats would make it their party belief system that men who pretend to be women should be able to win women's championships? And for people out there who say, it doesn't matter, look, California, Washington, and Minnesota, just in the last week, men have won women's state championships. I mean, this is crazy town.
Did you see the softball pitcher?
Of course I did. Bigger, taller.
They couldn't get the swing around. That thing was already past them. I mean, it's foolishness.
Yes.
And, it makes no sense whatsoever. The Democrats don't believe in it, but they push it because they don't have anything else to push. And so they want to keep that group of LGBTQ folks voting for them. And they're afraid, well, if we do this, and we're going to lose that voting base, and that's only really the voting base they have, and they really don't have all of them. It's just it makes no sense to me.
Would you have ever believed that was ever going to be an issue politically?
No. And the other thing is not just participation. It's dressing in the same dressing rooms and the showers. I mean, who believes that? Who believes that's right? I mean, it just makes no sense.
Yeah.
And so, again, it goes back to their ideology. The Democratic Party is it's splintered. You got the far left that's pushing all this. And so you've got the people that are moderate Democrats are looking, going, well, if I don't go along with this, I'm not going to get campaign money, and I'm going to be kicked to the curb, and I'm going to lose my seat. That's the reason we need term limits. I'm telling you, we got to do something where people don't have to be held hostage by the leadership of their parties. We have to have term limits where people can think for themselves and vote for their constituents.
And look, by the way, you're making a choice. You could have stayed in the Senate as long
Oh, yeah.
as you wanted to be in the Senate, right?
Yeah.
You could have been in here for decades. But you have served, and now you want to go back to Alabama and be governor. And I'm betting after 8 years as governor of Alabama, you'll probably just say, "Hey, it's time to work on my golf shots more."
Yeah, I would hope. But yeah, and I've been one of the most outspoken, and I'm not a politician. Heck, I come up here and look around, going, "Hey, I stand for this, and I'm going to speak out for it." I'm the only one that's had a bill on biological boys and men in women's sports. And we voted on it 3 times. I've had it on the floor 3 times, and I've not got one Democrat to vote for it. I actually lost a Republican the first time we had that on the floor. So that just no common sense up here when it comes to a lot of things. Again, the Democrats they're searching for an ideology that will strike a note with the American people where they can get reelected. But this nonsense in California right now, the nonsense of the girls being beat up. Literally beat up against men in sports, it's a losing cause.
Alabama, a lot of people with a lot of different beliefs. This kind of stuff would not happen in red states, right?
No.
Even with blue cities, they're not going to allow this kind of violence to take place. Did you ever think that it would be necessary to just have a legislation to not allow men and women's sports?
Never dreamed we'd even be talking about it. But if you go back to red and blue, you know how important they are in red states.
Yep.
I'm talking about girl sports and little kid sports and in high school and junior high and then even the higher education. It's so important. It's not that important in blue states. I mean, a lot of the Democrats up here they wouldn't know the difference between a football and a basketball.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not that important in their family life. And so, what does it make any difference? It doesn't. So it's so important in the state of Alabama that you would have an uprising deluxe if you had that pitcher in softball pitching against women. It would, and then, of course, the swimming with Riley Gaines. Now, very disappointed in the gymnast come out the other day.
Yeah, Simone Biles. I couldn't believe it.
I could not believe what she said. It makes no sense. If you can take the top 20 men in the country that would competed against her, that would probably have beat her.
Yeah, true.
In anything. And so it's like some of the older tennis players and that of the years have made tons of money playing women's sports, and all of a sudden, I think this is right. They should be able to participate. What? I mean, you'd have been an also-ran if that had happened. So what's happening now is we're going to lose little girls.
Yeah.
We're going to lose little girls because they're going to look at it and parents are going to say there's no reason for you to do that. We're going to have a lot of cheerleaders is what we're going to have because they like to be athletic. And it's just unfortunate that it's going to happen. But you look at some people, there are entire teams in high school across the country, most on the West Coast, that are all transgenders. I mean, it's over. And everybody say, well, it's just a few of them. No, it's not a few, and it's growing every day.
Look, I will say this, and I think I've said it on the show, but if I haven't, blue states, the way that we are going, every track and field champion will be a man pretending to be a woman.
Yeah.
I mean, that's where we're headed. It's crazy. Congratulations to you a year in advance on being a governor. You probably don't want to celebrate early. You don't want to high step into the end zone.
Got to run through the end zone.
Got to run through the end zone with the ball still in your hand. But he's Senator Tommy Tuberville, soon to be the next governor of Alabama. We got to play. I'm too bad at golf. I don't want to subject you to that. But we'll be crossing paths maybe on July 4th and beyond down on 30A and the Gulf Shores area. That's the best beaches in America. A lot of people don't know Alabama's got some of the best beaches in America.
Yeah, Alabama at Orange Beach, they're starting a $300 million project, Margaritaville.
Oh yeah,
it's really growing. I mean,
it's beautiful. If you haven't been, they don't want me to say it but Gulf Shores, Orange Beach, all the way down through there. Bet you've had a few drinks before at the Floribama right there on the it's one of the most iconic bars
I
out
threw
there.
out the first mullet one year.
Oh, the mullet toss.
At Pink Pony. Ken Stabler called me and said, Coach, I need you. And it's like throwing out the first pitch. People don't. A mullet is a fish, folks.
Yeah.
But you throw a fish, and whoever has the farthest throw in the competition wins. So they wanted me to come down and throw out the first mullet. I thought that was awesome.
That is the mullet toss, a big thing that happens down to Floribama. And if you're wondering what in the world Floribama, that's where Florida and Alabama meet. Literally, the bar is on the state line. Florida, Alabama, beautiful beaches. Senator, soon to be Governor Tommy Tuberville, appreciate you coming in studio with us here.
Thank you, Clay.
Let me tell you, having a will, good and important thing. So is establishing a trust, depending on where you are in life and your own family circumstances. One story after another of people who just didn't do their homework, didn't get the wills done, and boy, it turns into a mess for your heirs. Your will can give you a clear path and direction for the members of your family, and you can get hooked up right now. It's not as complicated as you might think. It's not as nerve-wracking as you might think. Just go online to trustandwill.com. They make it simple, affordable, and the results will give you peace of mind, and your surviving family members will have clarity so they don't end up arguing and having to deal with the difficulty after you pass. Website, take care of your family just like you have your whole life, trustandwill.com. They're experts at making sure that your legacy is protected. Visit trustandwill.com. That's trustandwill.com.